Hello and welcome everyone to Never on the Back Foot. This is our 51st stream coming after a while. And in tonight's live show, we will be discussing India's very dominant performance in that T20I series. At one point, I felt, is this again, T20Is or, T20 cricket on steroids because of the kind of high scoring matches we saw. And we will also be looking at the ODI series and everything there is to look forward to that. And obviously, the squad for Champions Trophy. Joining me tonight is Hariprasad. He's obviously an ardent cricket fan. You guys have seen him previously on Nair on the Back Foot as well. So, warm welcome to you, Hariprasad. Thank you so much for joining us. And yeah, without further ado, I think we can get started as well. So, yeah, first things first, Hari Prasad, how are you doing today? And you're talking to us from England, so there's obviously a time difference, but braving all of that, you're still here.
Yeah, hi Neha. Thanks for having me back on the show. It's been a while. Glad to be back. Yeah, been good. England's been nice, pretty chilly, but yeah, fortunately it's still afternoon here, so not that sleepy and stuff. But yeah, it's been great. Glad to be back on the show again.
Yeah, really nice to have you. And I mean, you're in England. There's an exciting England series coming up as well. I think for the men's and the women's side a little later on. Hope you can catch a few games and share it with us too. But
Hopefully.
let's talk about this series, right? I mean, your first impressions of India's win, sealing the series 4-1. I mean, England really looked like they were a team out of ideas. They just looked all over the place, and India clearly seemed to dominate. So, talk us through your first impressions of this match, of the series, actually.
Honestly speaking, hardly surprised because Gautam Gambhir as a T20 coach has nailed his team until now. I mean, we've seen it in the South Africa series as well, where he's been pretty consistent on that aspect. I mean, he's nailed down a few spots with Samson and Abhishek Sharma taking up the opening spots. Then he's brought in Varun Chakravarti, kept Ravi Bishnoi. Arshdeep Singh's been vital for the T20 team as well. So, in that aspect, I mean, he's nailed down his combination. He's got in Jurel, he's got Samson to keep as well. Jurel is there here and there. I mean, I unfortunately he's not been consistently playing at the position, but Jurel's there as the backup keeper to Sanju, and Tilak has been introduced into the squad as well with playing at number three, which was obviously big shoes to fill after Virat retired. But Tilak being there, he's been phenomenal. I mean, his performance in the second T20 is well known to everyone. So that's one thing. And Surya being made the captain. I mean, Gambhir spoken highly of how he regretted leaving Surya out of KKR, and he's also made him vice captain of KKR on a few occasions. So it's not very surprising that Gambhir chose to go with Surya as his T20 captain, and it shows. I mean, he's produced those results. Unfortunately, not personally with the bat, but as a captain, I think he's been solid. And there's more exciting series to come in the T20 arena because Gambhir, I feel, irrespective of the other formats, but Gambhir in the T20s, I feel he's been top notch. Going to England, I mean, McCullum's first series as coach of the limited overs. And I mean, he's carrying out the same baseball template, the famously called baseball template, over from test to the limited over series. A lot of attacking batters and bowlers. We saw Ben Duckett coming up as an opener in the series where he wasn't very consistent. He wasn't consistently playing under Matthew Mott, but here he is opening with Phil Salt. Jacob Bethel, another exciting talent, who's I think he set the England Australia T20 series and the ODI series ablaze, and he's here again. I mean, obviously missed out a few games due to illness, if I'm not wrong, but I think he's filling the shoes of Moeen Ali. I've known him to be a top order batter because I think in the under 19 World Cup that he played, he came in as an opener, but here you see him playing at 5, 6, 7, all those lower order positions, and also chipping in with a few balls. I mean, few overs with the ball. So Bethel is one more exciting talent, and one thing I was surprised was with the inclusion of Jamie Overton. I mean, the Overton brothers are pretty well known in the county format, county scene as well. But Craig has played a lot of games for England in the tests mainly. a few ODIs here and there, but I think Jamie is the more injury-prone player, and I've heard him to. I mean, previously before he could start playing, I've heard him to be more quicker than Craig, and also I think in 2022 when he made his Test debut against New Zealand, I think he scored on 90 odd runs in the innings that he played. So that spoke a lot of his talent, and then he's been pretty vital in the limited overs uh, format. I mean, I think he played as a pure batter starting in the starting, and then eventually started to bowl. And I think he's been good. I mean, because he can give you those strikes as a pinch hitter in the lower order, and obviously he's good with the ball as well. And Bryden Carr's another exciting talent. I think England's series became better after Cars replaced Atkinson, and that's been good. And obviously, the return of Jofra Archer and Mark Wood, both of them missing out due to injuries, that's been exciting as well. So, all in all, obviously, I mean, they did not win this series, but then England's white ball journey will be exciting under McCullum because a lot of players returning and a lot of similarities to the test as well, test for like combination that McCullum has, and it will be exciting. Probably come at the ODI series against India and the Champions Trophy.
Absolutely. I mean, a lot of good talking points you bring in there, Hariprasad. And as you spoke about England and all the new, fresh faces they had and experimented with the series, that's definite positives they will take away. But just looking at India's squad as well, right? I mean, what were your thoughts on the squads announced by India, right? And let's just look at the T20I side of things first up, because there were a few exclusions that people were not happy about. I mean, that's always going to be the case when you announce a squad, especially in the Indian cricket circuit. But your thoughts on the inclusions and exclusions of the T20I squad for India?
I mean, yeah, I mean, it was kind of hardly surprising because there was, I mean, obviously you expected players like Pant to play and a lot more other players to play, but then obviously there was the Border Gavaskar Trophy and probably to just give off some steam, and they might have not included them. But apart from that, I don't think there were many inclusions. I mean, there were many like surprising exclusions. I don't really recall because I think from the South Africa series, I think Ramandeep was someone who missed out, but then I think he was brought back later. Dubey was another surprise, but again, he was brought back later as well. So I think, yeah, initially it was kind of surprising because Dubey was vital even in the T20 World Cup and the series after, and the subsequent series is from there, the Bangladesh series at home and the South Africa series away. So yeah, it was kind of surprising, but then eventually they were brought back into the squad to play the subsequent matches. So I mean, yeah, it was surprising in the starting, but then I think they kind of nailed it later on.
Yeah, and I think for a lot of Indian fans as well, they were coming in with the disappointment of the Border Gavaskar series. So there's a lot to look forward to in this respect. And I think T20 cricket, kind of being the spectacle that distract us from those, miseries and atrocities that happened down under. But again, just looking at the squad, I mean, how pleased were you, with the return of Mohammed Shami? Because India has definitely missed him a lot, right? Since that I don't know, blistering performance he had in the ODI World Cup of 2023. So glad to see the man back, if not probably in full fitness, but at least bowling with full steam.
Probably the hugest miss of the Border Gavaskar Trophy. Yes, Mohammad Shami was that. And I mean, probably things might have changed if he was partnering the ball with Bumrah. Bumrah wouldn't have to carry the load of the whole bowling lineup. So obviously, his inclusion in the T20 series was a welcome change. I mean, although he played like a couple of games, but I think his inclusion was in the need of the hour. I mean, honestly speaking, we cannot afford to see Bumrah taking up the load again because he's much as you want to tell he's like god level, but he's only a human after all, and there's only so much he can do with the 10 overs that he bowls because this is an ODI tournament. So obviously, I mean, it's good that Shami is back, and we know his knack of picking wickets in the ICC tournaments ever since 2019. I mean, he was third choice there to Bhuvneshwar and Bumrah, third choice to Bhuvneshwar. I mean, Bumrah and Siraj in the 2023 World Cup as well. And he just comes in as a replacement and just goes on to pick wickets in the ICC tournaments. So him being there is obviously a welcome change, and I mean it's exciting times ahead. To be honest, with Bumrah and Shami being back to partner the new ball, so exciting times ahead. Hopefully he's fit enough to play all the three ODIs, because obviously he missed out the T20s. I mean, he played like only a couple of T20s from the five T20 internationals that were there. So he is hoping that he plays all the ODIs, because obviously Bumrah is only going to play the third ODI. He's been picked only for the third ODI in Ahmedabad. So hoping that Shami is fit for all the three ODIs, and yeah, let's see.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely integral to India's prospects, as you rightly found, as you rightly pointed out during the Border Gavaskar Trophy. We definitely missed him a lot, and for our Champions Trophy campaign as well, need the man in full fitness. But again, just looking at this squad, I think one of the bigger talking points is how Akshar Patel, was announced as the vice captain ahead of the likes of Hardik Pandya, which did not go down well, with a lot of people, and they were like, what is the rationale behind this and everything? But Akshar Patel, to just give him credit for the kind of performances he's been putting in. I think the T20 World Cup 2024 comes to mind, of the kind of mature performances he was putting in. Even in the IPL, we've seen him, being a busy customer with those wickets, with those crucial runs and everything. Again, Hariprasad, your thoughts on Akshar Patel, the vice captain of this T20 unit?
Quite surprising, I'll be honest, but I think Akshar has captained Delhi a few times. If correct me if I'm wrong on that aspect, but I remember Akshar captaining Delhi a few times when Pant or Warner weren't available. So obviously, I mean, on that aspect, he's not new to captaincy. He's had probably a few games under his belt, and he's been good. I mean, he's a vital part of the T20 side, so that speaks a lot about what player he is. I mean, he's got big shoes to fill, because Jadeja was the prime operator in that skill, and then here's Akshar, who's taken over completely from him after Jadeja's retirement post the T20 World Cup. So it's huge shoes to fill, but I think Akshar is up for that challenge. So I mean, it's not surprising. It is surprising because we saw Hardik captaining a lot before the T20 World Cup, and here they've brought an Akshar out of nowhere. That's how it looks like. But I think it's just the fact that, but it does not mean that Hardik is not a part of the leadership group. I mean, Surya himself mentioned that Hardik is well part of the leadership group as well. He sits with the leadership group and also takes those decisions. So probably just on paper that they just wanted Akshar to captain to relieve Hardik of some workload, because not to bring in that, but personal life has also been a little bit of a problem for Hardik. I'm sure he's a strong person, obviously, not going to deny that, but just to ease the monkey off his back. Plus, he is pretty injury prone, to be honest. I mean, we know how he sustained an injury in the 2023 World Cup as well, and the road to the recovery has been hard, with a lot of factors not helping his cause. The Mumbai Indians captaincy, whatever, I mean, the problems that happened because of that, and a lot of things on his plate, to be honest. So I think it's only fair that we allow Hardik to ease in as the prime all-rounder of the country. And but that, like I said, it does not mean he's not part of the leadership group, because his inputs are going to be vital. I mean, he's captained India on a lot of occasions before, and obviously being the captain of an IPL franchise, he also helps. He's a IPL winning captain as well. So I mean, he's a man with a good cricketing brain, obviously, and his inputs are going to be valid to Surya, where when they sit down to take decisions regarding the team. So it was surprising, obviously, Hardik being replaced as vice captain, but it does not mean he's not not that he's not a part of the leadership group. I think his inputs are still welcome and very valid. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think this is one of those occasions where fans, really read into something too much and then, just end up getting very polarized in that sense. And as you rightly pointed out, Hardik Pandya is very much a part of, the leadership group with all the kind of decisions they make collectively. Let's actually look at each of the matches, right? I mean, it was a five-match T20I series. Quite surprising considering we have a Champions Trophy, so the FTP again. Not sure what is going on there, but anyways, let's talk about the five T20Is. So the first T20I was obviously a snooze fest, right? Considering the expectations we had come in with, England getting bundled out for just 132, and besides Joss Butler, it just looked like the other batters were pressing self. They were just like they just didn't look like they were going to bat, and that's why you have to give credit to Varun Chakravarti and Abhishek Sharma too, right, for sealing that sort of a massive win for Team India. So again, your impressions from that first T20I?
Disappointing, honestly speaking. I mean, there was a lot of buzz around the T20 series because new faces and it's the first, huge series for McCullum as well as their limited overs coach, as I mentioned. But I think, yeah, it was pretty disappointing with England being bundled out for a mere 132 runs. And I mean, Eden Gardens is known for its pace tracks, but here we have Varun Chakravarti, the spinner. I mean, being the pick of the bowlers. I mean, it's hardly surprising because Varun is someone who operates really well, irrespective of the track, and he relies more on his pace because he's someone who's known to bowl at a quicker pace as compared to the other spinners. And he relies a lot on his variations, the mystery spinner, as he's called, along with Narayan at KKR. So, I mean, it's hardly surprising that Varun, in his IPL home ground, turned out to be the man of the match. And I mean, the other bowlers were fantastic as well. Not to just give complete credit to Varun here, because he was well assisted by other bowlers. I mean, Arshdeep picked up two wickets with giving up only 17 runs. Hardik was vital. Akshar Patel picking up those two wickets as well. And Bisnoy was very economical as well. So all in all, the bowling attack was fabulous. I mean, was expecting Nitish Reddy to get a few overs, but I think with with the five bowlers being beautiful out there, I think it wasn't required. But yeah, all in all, that was great. And obviously, the chase was pretty much killed with the opening partnership of Samson and Abhishek. Abhishek was beautiful. I mean, hitting eight sixes and five fours. He was top notch. Tilak came in, assisted him until the end. I mean, they had a good partnership as well, right? With Surya unfortunately falling cheaply, but Tilak played the second fiddle to Abhishek while Abhishek just kept hammering the English batters. I mean, if you see, Gus Atkinson went for 38 runs in 2 overs. Adil Rashid went for 27 in 2 overs. I think only Jofra was the most economical bowler, picking two out of the three wickets with giving only 21 runs in the 4 overs that he bowled. And even Mark Wood, who was returning from an injury, was taken to the cleaners by the Indian batters, mainly Abhishek. So all in all, a disappointing T20 international for England. A lot of expectations for, like, we expected a huge total being put because T20s have become such that where you see, I mean, the IPL has set a standard, honestly, to be honest, like with a lot of 250 plus totals and stuff like that. So and since we're playing in India, seeing a total that is 132, I mean, yeah, I understand that it could be a snooze fest, but all in all, a brilliant display by India, and yeah,
Yeah, definitely. I think it was a brutal showing from India's side to absolutely just kind of deflate England and their hopes. I think that's where the second T20 kind of lived up to its billing of being such an interesting encounter, right? England batting first, put on that 165. It was a tough Chennai wicket, and we saw glimpses of a fight there somewhere. And India also, in the run chase, did struggle a tad bit, but we saw some really, mature performances from the likes of Tilak Verma, that really tipped the scales in India's favor. So again, thoughts on this match and Tilak Verma's performance?
Like I mentioned, I mean, I'll get to Tilak later, but like I mentioned, I mean, the inclusion of Bryden Cars in the second T20 international was something that like fueled England up, to be honest, because Bryden Cars is a beautiful bowler. He's someone who's quick and relies on accuracy, and I actually expected him to start the T20 international series in the opener as well, but unfortunately, that was not to be. I mean, we saw Gus playing instead, but I think Bryden should have started. And he straight away made an impact. I mean, when he came on to bowl in the second innings, picking up 3 wickets and going for only 29 runs. I mean, he did give a hard time to the Indian batters, but again, we saw a master stroke of a knock from Tilak Varma, who stayed till the end, assisted by Washington Sundar as well. I think his contribution shouldn't go in vain because we did see a lot of wickets being picked. I mean, falling in the other end with obviously Cars, Russia. I mean, all the England bowlers picked up at least a wicket, with Cars picking up three. But yeah, I mean, Bryden Cars was like beautiful. I mean, like because of that, I mean, he was the missing link in the England squad, and we saw them picking up a lot of wickets. And the other end, apart from Tilak was going strong, but the others were like just falling like a pack of cards. And then came in Washington Sundar, who stayed for at least 19 balls, scoring a 26. I mean, in hindsight, if you see it as a statistic, it's not something really great, but in the context of the match, I think that was really required because they were 78 for 5 after Hardik fell, and Washington and Tilak set up a good partnership from there. And I think stayed until the 14th over or something like that. But yeah, I mean it was required, and that brought in some stability into the England. I mean in the Indian batting, and then we saw those two fours from Ravi Bishnoi to seal the deal for India, and that was brilliant. I mean, that does show how important it is to whack the tail. That is very common in Test cricket, but you don't see it a lot in T20s because it hardly goes to that extent. I mean, where you have the tailenders coming and hitting the ball. But yeah, I mean, credit to Bishnoi there for those two fours. And yeah, all in all, a good performance. I mean, good fight back by England as well. We got some good perform. I mean, Butler just continued his form, scoring 45 at a strike rate of 150, and the others chipped in with a few runs here and there. Jamie Smith got a debut, scored a quickfire 22 of just 12 balls. Bryden Cars again, as I mentioned, he was good with the bat as well. 31 of 17, that was good. So all in all, the inclusion of Bryden Cars was something that fueled England up and made them give a better fight as compared to the first T20 international at Kolkata. But yeah, I mean, Tilak was brilliant all in all, and eventually India won the game.
Yeah, I mean, from an Indian standpoint, definitely, this win was incredibly special, considering the wickets that were lost, the context of the match, and it ensured, an unassailable 2-0 lead. And I think most of us Indian fans had thought, yeah, that's pretty much the series, England's not going to give a fight. But that's where, the third T20, I kind of came out of syllabus, right? Because England registered a win showcasing what they are capable of. Again, they got to a competitive 171 batting first, and India obviously chasing had a proper batting failure. This is one of those occasions I think where Gambhir was talking about that we go big or literally go home, and in this case it was go home. India's top order kind of faltered, but Varun Chakravarti once again stood out with his 5 wicket haul. And yeah, I mean, what were your takeaways from this game? And were you a tad bit concerned with India's batting, or did you just consider it to be like an anomaly, a one-off sort of showing?
I would say an anomaly actually, because we can't count England out as a T20 side. I mean, they they've won. They were the World Cup World T20 holders before India eventually clinched it in Barbados. But yeah, I mean, England as a T20 side shouldn't be counted out because they've got huge hitters in Phil Salt, Ben Duckett, Liam Livingston, Josh Butler, Harry Brook. The list goes on. I mean, I think their number 10, who's Adil Rashid, comes in with 10 first class centuries. So they've got a huge batting order, and with the exclusion of Mark Wood. So all in all, I think, I mean, Mark Wood himself can clear the ball easily. So that's to say you can pretty much say that they've got 11 batters in their squad, and they came out well. I mean, Ben Duckett, there was a lot expected of Ben Duckett, who was given a long run finally after being in and out of the limited over squad. And Ben Duckett was here. He scored a quick 51 of 28 balls. Livingston came good finally, um, good 43 of 24 balls, and the others chipped in with useful runs here and there. Butler again, a double figure score. And yeah, I mean, all in all, more than one batter contributing to the England batting. I think that was required, and they eventually ended up putting a huge total. And this was the game where we finally saw Mohammed Shami back into the playing 11 of an Indian game. So happy for that. That was one of the main things that happened in this game. And obviously, nothing can be taken out of Varun Chakravarti's bowling. I mean, enough spoken about him. I mean, he's someone who likes to keep it simple. And actually, I remember Varun speaking in one of the interviews that he had given, like it, if, even if he bowls his best ball and he gets hit for a six or a four, I mean, it turns out to be an outcome that he does not favor. He does not get disheartened because his mindset is such that the batter was just there to hit it, but there's no fault of mine because I've bowled my best delivery. So all I need to do is basically probably try out a different ball or something like that. So here is someone who's got so much clarity in his mind, despite having played really less international games, because I mean that's where the IPL is a huge factor, because you've played these guys before in the past. I mean most of them, I would say, and you're repeatedly put into a lot of situations where a lot of challenging situations. So in that case, I think coming into the Indian squad, irrespective of having a lot of games under your belt, I think that basically makes the process much easier. And I think Varun Chakravarti was beautiful. I mean, picking up a fifer, unfortunately ending in the losing side, because I think England came back strong with their bowling. We saw Jamie Overton picking 3 wickets and giving only 23 runs. Cars was like as usual beautiful. I think Jofra Archer came back after being hit for 60 runs in the previous T20 international. Came back well with 2 wickets, and like picking up Sanju, Akshar, and Overton was fabulous. I mean, he was one guy I had my eyes on because I've heard a lot about him. Like I said before, he's someone who's been injured through and throughout, had to change counties because of lack of opportunities, and he's finally coming good. I mean, even got an IPL gig with the Chennai Super Kings. So, I mean, really happy for him. He turned out really well in this T20 international, and all in all, yeah, the Indian batting faltered to the English bowling. I mean, I think only apart from Hardik, who tried to save the chase, apart from that, I don't think there were any notable outcomes out of it. Abhishek did start well, but again was dismissed cheaply, and eventually the Indian batting could not step up, and like Gambhir said, like either go big or go home, uh, different words obviously, but yeah, eventually they had to go home with
Yeah, I think India wouldn't take this loss too seriously because it's a five-match T20I series. And let's probably talk about the fourth T20I as well. A very interesting encounter because England had the chance of doing something like level the series to all. Here was, I think, the one situation in the series where India was finally batting first. We got to see them batting first. They got to 181, and I think the bigger talking point was the manner in which they kind of defended that total. Shivam Dubey and Hardik Pandya were exceptional as usual, kind of helping India get to that total. But and I think you will agree with me on this point, that taking the sheen out of India's win was the fact that a lot of people criticized how Harshit Rana coming in as the concussion substitute for Shivam Dubey just did not make sense because it was not a like for like sort of thing. And a lot of questions were raised on the match referee and the umpire and what they were kind of doing. So, yeah, Hariprasad, I'll leave this open to you. You can share your thoughts on the match and probably of this very contentious concussion substitute rule. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it was a good match all in all. We had the lower order performing. Dubey was included in the squad, and I mean, Hardik came good as well. The hard hitter that we know him, I mean, ever since he started playing the format, I think we know him to be that lower order batter who comes in and tonks the ball at a huge pace. I mean, at a good strike rate, and those glimpses of Hardik was something that we saw. Dubey was phenomenal. I mean, like I said, I was surprised that Dubey was not included in the T20. I mean, in the T20 squad initially, but glad he was back. And like they stitched a good partnership amongst themselves, Dubey and Hardik. That was good. Rinku had a good score as well, 30 of 26. In the context of the game, I think it was fine. Abhishek was good as well, giving a good start to the team. Tilak and Surya did not go well. I mean, I think even Sanju as well. As a matter of fact, I think Sanju and Surya have had it hard in this series overall. But again, they could not do much. And yeah, I mean, all in all, Dubey and Pandya were phenomenal. Saqib Mahmood played this game. He was another guy who had a lot of. There's another controversy where he was not allowed to. I mean, his visa was delayed due to external factors, and he came in and he picked up three vital wickets. Overton was fabulous as usual. Rashid got hit. I mean, all in all, the English batters were sort of expensive, but when you have explosive batters like Dubey and Hardik in their prime, I mean, in good nick, I mean, it's kind of bound to happen where these guys just go ablaze and just try to hit every ball out of the park or for a boundary. And that's exactly what happened, and it was shown in the English bowling scorecard as well, with a lot of the players going for more than eight or more than eight at their economy rate. And yeah, the second innings, interesting stuff. Like you mentioned, Shivam Dubey was concussed and Harshit Rana was brought in. Not like for like, but that's the problem. I mean, it's not a hard and fast rule where they say they have to play a like for like. I mean, I don't remember. It's just you just gotta bring a concussion substitute, and this has happened before with India as well in the 30-20 international between India and Australia at Canberra. I mean, no, the first one in Sydney, if I'm not in Canberra or Sydney, I don't remember. But the first T20 international where Jadeja was concussed and Yuzvendra Chahal was brought in, and he ended up being man of the match in that game, despite being the concussion substitute. So I think, and obviously Langer was not happy with that outcome because it was not like for like at all. Where you're bringing a specialist spinner in for a spinning all rounder. I mean, it logically does not make sense, obviously, but it's just exploitation of the rule that is there. I mean, that that was approved by the referee back then, and it did not go well with Langer, and rightly so. I mean, because it is not like for like you're giving your team a I mean, a bigger advantage by selecting someone who's a specialist bowler in place of a bowling all rounder or some sorts. And in this case, I mean, Dubey is considered a batting all rounder, and then you have Harshit Rana, who is kind of a bowling all rounder. But yeah, I mean, it was an unfair advantage. But again, the rule is such that it's not hard and fast over here. And that gives a lot of discussion for probably changing the rule in the future, where you need to uh, like probably name a like for like replacement for a concussion substitute. I mean, it could have been done as well, because I think when the game started, Ramandeep was in for Dubey as a substitute fielder. I think a lot of us thought that Ramandeep would be replacing Dubey as a concussion substitute. And I mean, we've seen Ramandeep bowl in the IPL as well. Um, Personal opinion here, I feel Ramandeep is a far better bowler than Dubey. He's someone who can bowl quick. He can touch his 130s, 140s pretty consistently. So, I mean, it could have made sense had Ramandeep even been picked instead of Dubey. But yeah, they brought in Harshit Rana instead to make his debut, and he made a mark immediately, picking up 3 wickets. And like Butler said, I mean, that probably helped India win the game, if not completely because of it, but that probably helped India win the game all in all, because I think the English batters were pretty decent as well. I mean, we saw Harry Brook getting a 50 of 26 balls. That's with a good strike rate. Duckett was phenomenal as usual, quick fire 39 of 19 balls. And apart from that, then once Harshit Rana came in, I think that the dynamic of the game completely changed, because here they had a better bowler. Because had Dubey been there, I think he'd have given probably 1 or 2 overs. But then we have Harshit Rana here bowling all his whole quota. So I think, yeah, I mean, it was an unfair advantage. But again, this is something for ICC to consider, because I mean, we've had a lot of situations in the past where you do unconventional things. I mean, so-called unconventional things, and get the rules changed. I mean, Dennis Lilly bringing his aluminium bat, the underarm bowling, that, then obviously the body line. No one can forget that as well. So, and obviously the biggest taboo being, I mean, I don't know if you can still use this term, but mankad, or running the non-striker off before the ball's being bowled. Such taboos I mean, still exists, and because they're part of the rules, right? I mean, at the end of the day, you're just adhering to a rule of the rule book, a rule in the rule book of cricket. And it if you need to get something, like, you need to do such things, probably, I mean, might sound stupid, but then you gotta do such things to probably get the right rule out there. Because I mean, it's been done before, and probably this should be a starting point, and getting a hard and fast rule where you got to get a like for like replacement as a concussion substitute, and not anyone that is there in the reserves. So all in all, I mean, that's something that you can take away out of this game.
Yeah, I mean, not taking anything away from India's win, but definitely I think this rule can have a little bit of a relook, from the ICC's standpoint, because a lot of teams will find loopholes, and then, it just makes the situation all the more complicated. And that kind of brings us to the fifth T20I as well, because India absolutely made mincemeat of England in this one, sealing a memorable 150 run win. At one point, I'm like, is this a test match, or like what's happening? Like, what is this margin like? Just looking at it from an India POV, everything seemed to click. Everything was working well. Abhishek Sharma's knock, him getting those wickets as well, and the overall team effort from India, really sealed the deal, so to say. And England, clearly looked listless. So, your impressions of this game and just thoughts?
Again, I mean, I think my main point that has to be considered here is Abhishek's knock. I mean, they started going strong from the start. I mean, when Tilak fell for his score of 24 at the ninth over, India were 136 for 2. I mean, that speaks a lot about how important and beautiful this knock from Abhishek was. I mean, this game had Abhishek Sharma written all over it, to be honest. I mean, it was a beautiful knock. I mean, he's someone who's been mentored by Yuvraj Singh. He's got that flamboyance in him. I mean, a lot of comparisons to, I mean, the the general public, like the social media, basically compares him to Yuvraj Singh, Chris Gale, and rightly so. I mean, because he does have that flamboyance that these two left-handers possess, and he is someone who's kind of got the same flamboyance, and it's just shown. I mean, this game had Abhishek Sharma written all over it, to be honest. And I mean, Dubey was there as well, giving a quick fire 30 of 13 balls. Surya continued his poor form again. That was worrying. I mean, probably expected a lot more of him, but all the 5 games, I think he was pretty unimpressive. Same goes with Sanju as well. Tilak after that game, after that second a second T20 international, hasn't been great. So all in all, I mean, apart from Abhishek, I think the other the other batters probably did not make a good mark. And Rinku Singh, I mean, he was played around in the batting order a lot. That was something kind of disheartening to see, because you've seen Rinku probably giving a lot of good performances earlier, missing out on a spot in the T20 World Cup as well, coming back and basically being played around in the batting order. I mean, that's kind of disheartening, but unfortunately, it is what it is. So, coming to England's bowling, I think no one basically clicked. Um, Overton was taken for 48 and 3 overs. I think he had a bad game. Bryden Cast, although he picked 3 wickets, also had a bad game as well. Jofra went for over 50. Mark Wood took 2 wickets for 32. Livingston, I remember he bowled like the penultimate over, if I'm not wrong, or something like that, and or this was another game, my bad. But I don't know. I mean, there were some calls in this game that did not make sense, and this was one of them. And coming to England's batting, I think apart from Salt, no one clicked. India just terrorized the whole England batting lineup. Mohammed Shami was pick of the bowlers, 3 for 25 in the 2.3 overs that he bowled. Glad to see him back in the list of wickets. Varun Chakravarti phenomenal as usual throughout the series, and this game was no exception. Shivam Dubey probably silenced all those haters who said that he cannot bowl. Picked 2 wickets at a decent enough economy of 5.5. So probably silenced his doubters who thought he couldn't bowl. Good bowling innings from him. Abhishek Sharma continued his Midas touch, picked up 2 wickets for in the 1 over that he bowled. So all in all, complete decimation, and India just came up. And the sole cause of this is has to be Abhishek Sharma.
Definitely. I think it was one innings that will definitely be etched in our memories. And a lot of former cricketers have spoken about, this being probably one of the best centuries they've seen, being made in this format. But Hariprasad, let me actually just get your thoughts on Sky's form. You did mention it, through our discussion. But then it's concerning, right? Because him having a lean patch like this, he's being looked at as that captaincy option, at least till the next T20 World Cup cycle. And if the man leading from the front is in such poor form, it doesn't, augur well for the rest of the team. So where do we go from here? I mean, is there like a benchmark ski after this? We will have to consider other options, or do we continue giving Sky that sort of a free hand? Because Gigi seems to clearly believe in him and kind of back him to the hill. But you think that's the way to go and is the ideal one?
I think a recent statement came out saying that apart from the openers, there's no other batting order that is fixed. That does not really give a good impression, because I mean, we've seen this before as well, where I think the Sri Lankan ODI series, where the middle order was changed around a lot. I mean, we saw Shreyas coming in at 6, and there were atrocious calls all over. So, if that is the case, then that is pretty concerning. In a dynamic format like T20, I don't think it matters a lot, because you can get hitters at the end and probably seal the deal, where we saw Dubey and Hardik having that partnership or something like that. But probably in the ODIs, I don't know. But coming back to Sky, I mean, even he was brought in at number 3 in one of the games, if I'm not wrong. And that basically sets a bad precedent, because if your own captain has not nailed his position, then what's the point? I mean, that's some. I'm guessing probably that's something that's running in his mind, because him being the captain of the team and his own position in the batting order is not set. And okay, in my opinion, I feel your top three or at most top four must be settled. You need to have like a fixed position at least until the top four, because you never know. I mean, in the first two balls, your two wickets can fall. There's a high chance of that happening, and you're probably 0 for 2 at the end of your first over, and you gotta you gotta play as an opener, technically, and as an opener. So probably, I mean, you need to nail down your first four, your top four, regardless of which game you're playing, which format you're playing. Your top four must be nailed down. That's something that's running in Surya's mind, and that could be the cause for his probably, I mean, his bad form. But yes, Gambhir does seem to trust him. Like I mentioned before, he saw him as a captaincy prospect. Well, he was young and regretted leaving him to go to Mumbai at 2018. So I think probably time will tell how Surya will perform. But yeah, it does seem to be worrying. But I think we've got time, because the T20 World Cup, I think, is happening in 2026, if I'm not wrong. So I think we've got enough time until we see Surya back in form, and I think he's going back to playing the Ranji as well. So probably that might just keep him in good nick, and probably find some technical flaws that has been hindering his performances. So good times ahead, but certainly concerning at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, T20 as a format itself is extremely volatile. So, you can't expect them to keep getting those runs. Sometimes, you have those lean patches.
That's
And
true.
hopefully, Sky can figure out his thing. But again, just get your thoughts on Gautam Gambhir, right? The kind of coaching philosophy he kind of espouses. Because I think it was in that post match broadcaster ke saath, that interaction is where we, really got to see what Gambhir was thinking. He was talking about how India should always go for the kill. They will be looking at targets in excess of like 200, 260, and all of that. He also mentioned about the opener slot being confirmed, but the rest of the batting being very fluid and all of that. Uh, so again, just what have your thoughts been on his overall presence in the team? I know T20s he's a different beast. In tests, we saw what happened. But just looking at this series and the philosophy at large, are you someone who kind of endorses it, or are you like, can't wait to get done with the GG era?
Works 50-50, to be honest. I mean, you can't expect to be dynamic all the time. You gotta kind of nail it down to your basics and stuff like that. I mean, you just can't go with the flow and tell that your openers are fixed. So basically, you're gonna rotate the whole middle order from there. That's not how it works all the time, right? I mean, you gotta have some, like, that's what I believe in. You gotta have your top four fixed, like I mentioned earlier. Uh, that is a necessity, because I think you can expect your top four to bat at least until the halfway mark, and after that, probably depending on the match situation, you can probably rotate around your rest of the batters, but your top four or at least top three must be fixed, in my opinion. So that is something I feel probably might not go in favor. And I don't know. I mean, probably that's my main outtake actually. Apart from that, I think he's done well in the T20 scenario. I mean, he did well in Bangladesh, against Bangladesh. He did well in South Africa as well. So all in all, he's probably doing well with the T20 side. Yet to see what happens in the ODIs, because there haven't been a lot of ODIs played apart from that series in Sri Lanka. But if that has to be taken as a template of what he's going to do further, I might worry a little, because being dynamic in a 50 over format is not going to help. You cannot rotate around. I mean, you probably have to nail your top six, top five, something like that. I mean, at least until the top five. I think it was nailed back in the 2023 World Cup under Dravid. But if you are gonna rotate around that as well, I might worry a little, because it's a 50 over format. You're playing a lot more overs, and you cannot afford to have players coming in at any position at any game. That's not how it works in the longer formats of the game. So that might be worrying if that's the template. But yeah, let's wait and watch. I mean, what happens? Obviously, I'm not gonna keep that as the template because Gummy might have other plans. And coming to tests, I think enough has been spoken. I mean, it's not. I mean, I don't think I'll go into that at the moment because it's a white ball going on at the moment. So yeah, that's what I feel about Gambhir.
But just going slightly off topic here, I mean, Gautam Gambhir's philosophy has come under the scanner, with a lot of people not being happy with it. Do you think having like a split coach sort of a system will work out in India? Because the split captaincy thing seems to be happening. A lot of teams have adopted even, having like split coaches across different formats. Is it a viable thing, or are we just, imagining scenarios here?
That might be a good option actually. I think in South Africa you see Shukri being the test coach and Rob Walter taking over the limited overs. We had Matthew Mott being the limited overs coach at England with McCullum as the test coach. I mean, I think it might work out to be honest because Gambhir has been doing well with the. I'm not taking anything away from him. I think as a white ball coach, I think Gambhir's been doing brilliant, at least in the T20s. But probably his test coaching is something that is up for debate because, personally speaking, I think he has a long way to go. So probably something like a split coach might work out in the future because a lot of teams are heading towards that direction and we are seeing results. I mean, uh, the prime example has to be South Africa here. Shukri Conrad has been the coach for the South African Test team, and now they are in the World Test Championship finals. Rob Walter being the coach of the limited over side, and we had South Africa in the finals of the World T20 as well. So in that case, I think probably working separately with different philosophies might work out, and that is something probably India can consider in the future because the tests have not been like haven't been pretty impressive. I mean, losing a home series, being whitewashed in a home series, probably losing is also acceptable to a certain extent. I do not, but being whitewashed by a team who basically does not have spin friendly conditions back at home and being whitewashed by I mean by spinners who I mean do not have basically like have spin friendly conditions back at home is probably concerning by in because India is known to produce those kind of tracks and the home I mean the away teams are doing their homework well. I mean Tom Latham literally spoke out that we have the spinners ready to come out and pick those 20 wickets and that is what they did at the end of the day. So probably there's a lot has to go under the scanner. Losing the Border Gavaskar Trophy after 12 years, that was also disappointing. Can't say I wasn't surprised, but was disappointing to say the least. So probably his red ball coaching tactics probably a little iffy, but coming to the white ball, I think we could probably go with Gambhir as the coach and maybe look for a different coach in the red ball.
Yeah, hopefully BCCI also kind of thinks on this aspect, and if they're stacking him, they kind of take all of the factors into consideration. But again, just looking at positives for India from the series, the obvious names are Abhishek Sharma, Tilak Varma, then you have Varun Chakravarti and all of that. But Hariprasad, again, overall, are you just happy with the way India is shaping up? There are definitely these positives and areas to work on, but all in all, you happy with India's T20I template and mission 2026?
More or less happy to be honest, because like I said before, in T20s, I think you can afford to change around a majority of your lineup. Like I said, probably your top three or top four should be fixed. But apart from that, I think you are allowed to experiment a lot with your lineup over there. So, I mean, and he's nailed with his bowling selections as well. He's gotten Varun Chakravarti, who's been fabulous. Ravi Bishnoi has been good. Arshdeep Singh, less spoken about him. Everyone knows what kind of a bowler he is. Bumrah will be back for the main games. There's Siraj and Shami as well who are there. I mean, there are a lot of prospects out there for the Indian T20 side. So all in all, I think we are looking good as a T20 side, and a lot more trophies to come as a T20 side. So I'm pretty happy with the T20 lineup that Kabir has been working on. That good times ahead.
Yeah, fingers crossed for that with the way the Indian T20 side is shaping up. But let's also get your thoughts on the England side. I mean, a 4-1 drubbing certainly doesn't do a world of good, for their confidence. And mind you, this is the same England side, okay, maybe like the core England side that did win that 2022 T20 trophy. They would be extremely disappointed. So, Hariprasad, where does England go from here, right? Areas to work on, and do they need a slight rewiring and rethink?
It's a relatively new side. I mean, a lot of new faces in Ben Duckett, Jamie Overton, Brydon Cast playing more frequently. We've got Harry Brook coming back as well after the lengthy layoff due to personal reasons and stuff. So I think England are also figuring their T20 side out. They've got good prospects, not denying that, but I think it's only going to be an upward curve for them. But that is provided their main bowlers remain injury free, because we know Archer and Wood are very injury prone bowlers, and Jamie Overton is no exception to that as well. His whole career has been laden with injuries. Unfortunate for him, but that is how it is. So I think if their bowlers are free of injury, the main bowlers basically are free of injuries, then probably they will be a side to reckon with. I mean, we are seeing a side where Sam Curran is being left out, and we know how good a player is Sam Curran is, and if he is being left out of the squad, that shows the quality of players that England has, and it's only going to be an upward curve for them from here, because it's a new coach, new players being bought in, new ideologies. And I mean, we've got Jacob Bethel as well. An interesting fact that I'll tell you: when I landed in UK in September, the first match that I saw was an Indian England Australia game, and I saw Bethel going ablaze. And I took an instant liking to this kid, to be honestly speaking. So he's a potential superstar for England, I feel. Being picked by RCB as well, and being the team I support, I'm pretty happy. So, I mean, good times ahead for England. I mean, I don't think this series should give an indication that they're struggling as a side. They're new, the coach is new, the ideologies will be new. So, all in all, I think the curve is only upward for England as a T20 side.
Yeah, I think we should definitely give them the benefit of doubt here that, this is a unit that will take time to, kind of gel in and eventually, end up doing well. So, yeah, that kind of brings us to the ODI series that starts tomorrow. Again, quite looking forward to this one because it's the Champions Trophy that's just happening a few days later. And finally, there is some ODI cricket for us to, kind of consume. So yeah, I'll start off with probably getting your thoughts on India's squad, right, for this ODI series, which also is pretty much the same for the Champions Trophy as well. When you look at the squad, the first look is, yeah, it's giving you a lot of feels from that ODI World Cup 2023 squad. The core, the heart, the soul remains the same. But India hasn't played a lot of ODIs since then, barring that very forgettable series, Let's Repress It versus Sri Lanka. But yeah, your thoughts on this squad?
It's concerning, I'll be honestly. To be honest, it's very concerning because over the last one, I mean, ever since the T20 World Cup, we've played only one series, that is the Sri Lanka series, like you mentioned. And that being the only series does not give a lot of confidence going into this Champions Trophy, because you need to play a lot of games as a side, even if you nailed your combination from earlier. And irrespective of the fact that this is the same combination that will be going forward from the World Cup, probably one or two players coming in and out, because I think KL Rahul's spot is under the scanner from what I've been hearing on social media, with Pant going to take over. So, I mean, I'm not going to get into that at the moment, but more or less the same 11 is probably going to take field. Well, as compared to the T20, I mean, the ODI World Cup back in 2023, and come to the Champions Trophy. So, even then, I feel you need to play a lot of games as a team. I mean, just nailing a combination will not work. You gotta get in games there, play as a team as much as you can, and probably address a few more technical faults, because you remember they did not go on to win the World Cup. They fell short by a little. It still hurts, but yeah, I mean they fell short. So a lot of things to probably address that might have not been addressed. So, and that just comes while when you play a lot of games together. I mean, just going with the fact that okay, this was one of the best Indian sides that played the 2023 World Cup. Like, okay, fine. I mean, it's all right. We'll just go in with the same combination. That does not sound. That does not makes any sense, to be honest. I mean, all in all, you need to probably play a lot of games as a team, and playing only a lot of T20 internationals and tests. Probably tests I'm not going to count because the World Test Championship is happening. But playing a lot of T20I bilaterals probably is not wouldn't have been helpful. And yeah, just going in with one or two ODI series does not give a lot of confidence for this Indian side. Hoping that they do well, but the confidence is not much.
Yeah, and I think this is again, one of those tournaments where we really need to keep our expectations low, because while the rest of them, play in Pakistan, we'll be playing our matches in Dubai. So
That's true.
honestly, don't know what to expect with the conditions and the kind of team combination to opt for. But again, now with Shubman Gill, being appointed as the vice captain, I mean, what did you make of it? Did you see this coming? And every third series we have a new vice captain, and change in the whole captain leadership group hierarchy. So did you read into it too much?
Uh, Probably they're looking at the future at the moment. I mean, Rohit's form has been a concern, and they're probably predicting the same in the ODIs as well. But honestly speaking, ODIs has been Rohit's best format, and but he's not getting any older either. I think he turns 38 this year, so they're probably looking at a long-term captain at this, and I think Shubman is probably the right choice. So all in all, pretty happy with Shubman's appointment as vice captain. I mean, they're probably trying to get him into the leadership group right now and ease him into it. So at this juncture, appointing Shubman Gill is probably a good decision. Obviously, you can argue saying that there's a lot of round robin going on with the captaincy, but or the vice captaincy as a matter of fact. But I think we're probably heading in the right direction at the moment with Shubman as vice captain, provided that we stick to him as vice captain, obviously. But I think it's pretty encouraging that Shubman is the vice captain because he's nailed his spot as an opener in the ODIs. Him and Rohit have been formidable with the bat at the opening position. So I think it's only fair that you probably look at him as a captaincy prospect. I think this was India's idea all along, and they've probably just exercised it at the moment. So because we know Shubman has IPL experience as well as captain. So I think he's not new to captaincy as such. He's not new to the leadership group. So probably appointing him as vice captain at this instant is probably a good thing to take in the future.
Yeah, and I think it also kind of gives that implicit message that boss, he's going to be a part of that playing 11 anyway. He's going to be the first choice opener, and probably Yashasvi Jaiswal is going to be a backup sort of opener for this team. But even we just got the news today that Varun Chakravarti has been included in the squad. Like, he was practicing with the team, and later BCCI and when Shubman Gill in that press conference kind of confirmed, Varun Chakravarti has been included for this squad and eventually even for the Champions Trophy. So, Hariprasad, are you happy with this inclusion? Because Varun Chakravarti, the ODI player, is someone we haven't seen a lot, but considering the wave of form he has been in, definitely has to be a no-brainer, no, including him.
Pretty happy with his inclusion, to be honest. Surprised but happy because I think he was the second highest wicket taker in the Vijay Hazare Trophy that concluded recently. Second or joint highest, I'm not completely sure, but he was there at the wickets column. I mean, he was pretty high up there. So it's not, and he's pretty much. I'm pretty sure he's worked on his fitness as well, because there were a lot of fitness concerns regarding Varun Chakravarti, like whether he can like survive in the longer formats of the game, being first class and list A. But I think he's put that all to silence. and he's giving you 10 overs consistently and picking those wickets as well. So probably that can be put to rest at the moment, and that's probably the reason why Varun Chakravarti has been picked up in the Champions Trophy. But having said that, it is kind of surprising because it's you're just banking on one tournament basically, and you're still picking him respect just with the aspect of one tournament, and probably you're considering your T20 form as well in this case. Because I don't see why you consider a player with just one good tournament performance and you bring him into the ODI side already, and probably even include him in an ICC tournament. I think that was a mistake that India did with him back in the 2021 World Cup as well, and that happened in Dubai because they just brought him for one tournament, and unfortunately he was deemed as the laughing stock of the tournament because we had to bow out early, and his performance, I mean, he was economical, not going to deny that, but did not pick those wickets, and eventually he kind of became the laughing stock of the tournament, and that was sad to see. Because and but it's hardly surprising because he literally played like, I don't know, to 3 games, and he was coming into an ICC tournament. And for someone who's as calm and collected as him, even that can be intimidating because you're representing a country in an ICC tournament, and it's gonna be huge. So all in all, I think it's probably the same mistake that India is doing that they did back with him in 2021, and happy for him. Not going to take that away from him, and obviously he's done well. He's probably a changed bowler right now because more fitter and more wickets being taken. But gotta say, I'm pretty surprised with the decision.
Yeah, it felt like one of those things where it just happened because, a very reactionary move, so to say. And
Exactly.
let's see how it kind of works out well, because sometimes when you're riding that lovely form, just keep playing a lot more cricket and probably, you can keep getting those wickets. At least India will hope for that. And another interesting, exclusion, I'd say, from the squad had to be that of Mohammed Siraj, right? I mean, man has been, I don't know, like vociferously used across all formats for India, playing tournament after tournament, and then comes the Champions Trophy, and the think tank or the team management decides, hey, probably we are better off without him. Yeah, I mean, what did you make of this surprise inclusion? I'd use the word surprise because it was very surprising.
I completely agree with you on that. It was a surprise that Mohammad Siraj wasn't there in the squad. But let me tell you this as well. I think it's a welcome change for him because I don't remember a series where Siraj was rested at all. He's been playing cricket non-stop. I probably, apart from the small T20 bilaterals that we had, apart from that, I think he's been playing non-stop in and out. Every Indian game that's happened, he's been playing that, and he's probably fatigued as well because I mean we saw that in the Border Gavaskar Trophy as well. I mean he was he was erratic with his lines. He was picking those wickets, but he was pretty erratic with his lines on a lot of occasions, and that does not define him as a bowler. I mean because he's someone who's actually very talented and very skilled, and someone who can use his brains and actually pick wickets. And he was still picking wickets, but then he was very erratic with his lines, and that is just the reason is just fatigue because he's been playing for the team in and out without a lot of rest given. Bumrah's been rested a lot, obviously, to manage his workload, but Siraj's workload has been a concern. But having said that, it's obviously surprising that he's not been picked. The only reason I can think of is they probably want to keep him fresh for the England tests that are coming up this year. That is one thing that I can think of because I think if you remember back in 2019 with the Australian team, Hazelwood had picked an injury and he was fit for the World Cup, but then he was not picked for the World Cup because they had the Ashes coming up and they wanted him to be fit for that. So probably here in this case, it's probably the fatigue that has affected Siraj. Having said that, it's still a surprise that he's not in the squad because he's probably been India's best bowler in the ODI format uh, for the past few years. But that's the only reason I can think of for his exclusion.
Yeah, honestly, no other reasons. And just carrying on this discussion on Pacers as well, looking at India's pace bowling stocks, right? Right now, we obviously have Bumrah and, Shami's injuries being such major talking points, and India having to, kind of experiment with a lot more Pacers coming in the mix. But Harshit Rana is an interesting name there that really sticks out because I think Gigi, for one, really, kind of endorses this man to be the next big Pacer. And to his credit, he actually did well in the IPL, did well in the recent T20I as well. But what do you make of it, his inclusion in the squads? And again, in your mind, do you have like a pecking order for Pacers? Because I think of, Yash Dayal, Khalil Ahmed, Mukesh Kumar, all of them, just kind of just falling all the more behind, so yeah, how do you look at this sort of a situation?
I think one thing that needs to be understood is that their favoritism will be there with any coach or captain. As much as you want to admit that's not the case, that is how it is. And the coaches would want to try out new talents that they think are really that can probably make a mark early in their career. And I think Gambhir is looking at Harshit Rana in such a way. He's trying to involve him in the national side as much as possible and probably get a game here and there and get a lot of experience as well as a bowler, because honestly speaking, he is a good talent. It's not like he's just being picked out of any bad performances. He has a first class 100 as well. If many people do not know this, but he's got a first class 100 as well. And that's something, and something that early in his career, because he was termed as just a bowler, and here he is who can wield the bat as well. So it's something, I think it's a spark that Gambhir sees in him and probably wants to integrate him in the national side as soon as possible. So to me, it's just a pure experiment, to be honest, because just the coaches take a punt and probably just take a chance on a certain player and be like, okay, fine, probably he'll do. I mean, he'll probably make a mark earlier than expected, or might not. I mean, it might not work out, it might work out, but this Harshit Rana inclusion in the Border Gavaskar Trophy and in the T20s I'm not taking, but in the Border Gavaskar Trophy and the England ODI series is pure experiment in my opinion. And if it works out, well and good. If it doesn't, then probably got to go back and get another pacer who's more experienced or something like that. But yeah, in my opinion, it's just an experiment and hoping that it works out for Gambhir.
Yeah, considering the coach has taken such a massive punt, in giving Harshit Rana the opportunity, we are clearly rooting for him to do well.
Of
But if
course.
every selection was, kind of based on merit, I think the other notable exclusion had to be that of Karun Nair. I think just all across social media, you see newspapers, media at large has just been raving, about the kind of form the man has had in the Vijay Hazare Trophy, scoring hundreds for fun, doing so exceedingly well, for with Harva, and all of those performances seem to have just gone unnoticed. I mean, again, what did you make of like his no, like his exclusion from this setup? And again, do you think again people are getting carried away with the fact that he performed well in domestic, so it's the best thing to kind of include him, while discrediting the efforts of all the people who have worked hard to kind of make it into the ODI setup? So, like, which end or which side of the debate do you find yourself on?
Like I mentioned about Varun Chakravarti, I was surprised with his inclusion in the squad. And I'd say the same thing about Karun Nair as well. It's just one series that he's performed. Although not taking any credit away from, I mean, he was beautiful in that Vijay Hazare Trophy. He played for Vidarbha, even captaining them. Mammoth average, uh, perform like good performances in the knockouts as well. But again, there's just one series that he's performed in such a way. I mean, I don't think that should be the reason why he should be selected. And you might make the same case of Varun Chakravarti as well, and which makes sense. That's the reason why I was surprised that he's been picked in the Champions. I mean, potentially being picked in the Champions Trophy and the England ODI series. But you need to understand this Indian side that is going into the Champions Trophy is a settled one. It's something that is coming from the 2023 World Cup. The Players are the same. A few backups have been changed, but that's about it. I mean, the core of the probably the playing 11 is probably going to be the same as it was from the 2023 World Cup. And that's a tried and tested formation that has actually helped India. Although we did not win the World Cup, unfortunately, but we did have a good run. I think if we take that into account, there is no place for Karun Nair in the squad. Where would you fit him? We have Rishabh Pant sitting outside because he's not finding a spot. And where would you fit Karun Nair? I mean, there is no place where you can fit him. So it kind of makes sense that Karun Nair is not in the squad. Absolutely brilliant knock, brilliant tournament. I'm not taking that away from him, but unfortunately, there is no place for him in the squad because we've got other superstars, like I mentioned, Rishabh Pant sitting outside, waiting for a spot in the playing 11. So I think it's hardly surprising that Karun Nair, personally, it's hardly surprising that Karun Nair is not in the ODI squad.
Yeah, because people, bring in this whole debate of how Karnataka players are just, used and thrown around like this.
I
Man
mean, we've
scored
got KL Rahul at number five, so I don't think that should hold good in that way. But yeah, I get what you're saying.
Yeah, a lot of people brought in this argument, like Karun had scored a triple ton versus England. Like, how are people forgetting that 3 tests later, he's nowhere close to the setup? I don't know, man. People just, conveniently bring in arguments like this. But I agree with you on the Karun Nair point that, it's tough. Where did you fit him in this 15? And it takes away the spot of another, say, all rounder or bowler. So it just makes things
More
complicated.
than that, I feel it takes away the spot of a person who's actually proved themselves in that position. I mean, if you see Shreyas Iyer, he's been instrumental ever since 2019 at number four. I mean, I think you would have seen the WhatsApp groups as well. I've always fought for Shreyas Iyer to be at number four, and I will do so. And that's he's nailed the number four spot in ODIs, and you can probably replace Karun Nair there, but when he's nailed his spot, where will you fit him? Number five is being looked at for a keeper. KL Rahul is there. You have Rishabh Pant at the bench, basically waiting for his opportunity. And there's no replacing number three. I mean, that's not even up for debate. So where would you fit him? He's not a bowler who bowls like Hardik, where you can replace him there. He's not a spinner like Jadeja, where you can replace him there. And he's not a, I mean, he's a batter, first of all, so you can't even bring him in as a bowler. I'm probably speaking bullshit at the moment, but yeah, it is what it is. You cannot really argue for Karun Nair to be in the squad because there is simply no space.
Yeah, it's as simple as that. And for all the fans who are hurt, guys, we're not saying that Karunai doesn't deserve to be a part of the Indian team. At some point in the future, I'm sure, he can stake a claim for himself. But probably this one could be a little premature, considering how India's combination seems more or less settled. But lastly, Hari Prasad, like, what are your expectations from an Indian standpoint, right? We've been talking so much about the squad. We have this ODI series versus England, a chance for a lot of players to just get back to the group. Virat and Rohit are coming back. We've gone 1 hour, 18 minutes without talking about Virat and Rohit. So, yeah, I mean, just your expectations.
Pretty rare, I completely agree with that. But since you brought that topic up, it's going to be a huge series for them, personally, because I think I mean, it's a no-brainer that they've not been at their best in the tests. I mean, the Border Gavaskar Trophy was a disappointment for both of them, and ODIs being Virat and Rohit's best format, I expect them to come at the top because I mean, Virat's averaging 57, Rohit's also averaging around 50, if I'm not wrong. Both of them have scored more than 10,000 runs in their careers. And I feel ODIs is something that they've nailed and they'll probably continue that rather than continue their current form. But again, cannot say. I mean, because they are at the receiving end of a lot of trolling from social media. And I know they're professionals and they're experienced players and they probably do not take it to their heads, but it will be in the back of their mind saying that, okay, fine, I've probably had a bad series before and I just hope I don't falter this time around. And they've gone back and played Ranji Trophy as well, although they haven't had the best results out of it. But even then, it shows that they are fighting hard to probably get back their form. And I think ODIs is one day internationals are probably the best way to get back that form, and that uh, the social media basically think, because it's their best format at the end of the day. And I think personally, I think they should not have any problems, but one cannot say. I think we'll have to wait and see basically.
Yeah, I mean, both of them are beasts, when it comes to ODIs. So, literally, fingers crossed that both of them can just get out of this rut and, get back to doing what they really excel at. And let's also look at England's squad, right, for the ODI series and Champions Trophy. Now, Joe Root has been recalled, which was quite interesting. Man seems to be, staking a claim in this setup. But the likes of Reece Topley, Matt Potts, then even Sam Curran, and even Will Jackson, just missing out was some interesting exclusions. But again, just looking at the way England is progressing, they're probably trying to experiment with more options and get that new core in place. Your impressions of the squad?
Hardly surprising, to be honest, because baseball is just basically implementing its own strategy that they've carried from the tests. They've got their attacking players in, like obviously Jamie Overton, Brian Cast, Archer, not Archer, sorry, Wood, and Joe Root is back. That's a plus for them. Obviously, I mean, he shouldn't be outside the ODI squad a lot, but I mean, I don't know, because if you see basically the ODI structure in English cricket, they do not play a lot of ODIs. I mean, you can just go to any player in cricket form, but probably search their stats. The number of List A games that they've played are very less. It'd probably be in tens, twenties, or something like that. I'm not talking about the players that are established uh, in the international setup. It's probably the ones who are up and coming, and they haven't played a lot of List A games. So a lot of it has to depend on their county performances or their blast performances. So that's kind of worrying, to be honest. So they have to, and Baz is basically just putting out his template out there by selecting those players who fit his model of attack, 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 and that's just basically what he's continuing with the ODI squad as well. So unfortunate that players like Topley, Karun, and Potts had to miss out, but it is what it is. I mean, it, that they probably do not fit that template. With Will Jacks, I would say inconsistency. I don't know. I mean, there are a lot of attacking players who are probably more consistent than him, and unfortunately Jax had to miss out as well because of that. So that's what I would say. I mean, it's just that the philosophy does not match for these players, and eventually, I mean, unfortunately, they had to miss out on a spot.
And last but not the least, Hariprasad, let's also get your prediction for this ODI series. I mean, India are again, beasts when it comes to ODIs on home soil, except that one World Cup match that we do not want to talk about. But again, your prediction, highly in favor of India, or do you think England can actually make a series out of it?
I think a series will be made out of it, because England have been. I think after the controversy, I think England have been hurting as well, and they probably want to make a mark in this format. And yeah, I think a series will be made out of it. To be honest, I predict the scoreline to be probably 2-1. Could go in favor of either teams, to be honest. But yeah, I mean, I would say India because I support India, but. It could go any way, to be honest. I'm predicting that the series will be a close contest and some exciting cricket will be on the way.
Yeah, because a lot of people feel, ODI cricket is so boring. It's like that middle child no one wants. But I think the format definitely has a lot to offer. And I hope, this series kind of gives us an impression of that before we head on to the Champions Trophy. But yeah, that pretty much does conclude our discussion. And to all our viewers who were sitting through, this 1 hour, 24-minute stream, thank you so much. for joining us. I wish you could share some of your thoughts after the stream as well with us. We would be more than happy to address them all. And thank you, Hariprasad, for taking time off your schedule to join us on the podcast, share your lovely insights. And here's wishing you the best for your journey ahead. Hope to see you, work with like a fancy team and all in the future, and then come on the
Hopefully.
podcast and flex about it. And to all our viewers, catching on this later, please do share your comments, like the stream, and it'll kind of help reach this conversation to more fans. And yeah, guys, that's all. Take care, stay safe. Bye for now.